So in this video series we're going to look at how to make an old school 2D side-scrolling shooter. I haven't done any coding yet. All I've done is dragged and dropped the visual resources from the external folder into Unity. So that's pretty simple how to do that anyways. So let's start right in on this. Let's take our player, put her right into the scene, put her off to the side. We'll click on the main camera. That looks about right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to give her a collider box. So actually we're going to use, let's do a polygon collider. And as you can see, what it does is it automatically looks at the non-negative space. It looks where there's only foreground and does a pretty solid job of getting it right. So probably wouldn't want to tweak any of that, so we can keep that just like it is. So now let's give her the ability to fly about. So we got to add player control. So we'll add a component, be a new script, and it'll be hero control. C#, create an add. Now we'll go ahead and we'll open that up. So now let's take a look and see what we're going to do. Okay, so let's add some key code variables. What you actually call the variables is fairly irrelevant. It simply lets you, the programmer, know what to expect or what your intention is for that variable. For the moment they'll just be up and down. We can always build on that and have them fly a little bit forward like some games allow you to do. Some stick you in a column, but some do let you kind of fly back and forth as well too. So in the update section, if input get key down, fly up, before we proceed, let's go ahead and give her rigid body 2D, set gravity to 0, because that's what we're about to refer to in the code. So get component, and there's a rigid body 2D we just added. We're going to work on the velocity attribute of that component. And let's see, we're moving vertically, so 0 for X. And let's do 3 for Y, 0 for Z. And we'll do the same for fly down. And then we'll do one more where we check to see if neither one is selected, because what happens is once you've applied velocity, you didn't just move the position, you've applied an ongoing force. So you have to remove that force or else it'll just keep going and going and going. So in this case we have to say if this is not happening, add an extra parenthesis here since we're checking multiple elements. And this is not happening. So basically, when you type this statement, you're basically looking to see if this is true. By prefacing it with an exclamation point, as bizarre as it looks, you're now saying the opposite if this is not true. In other words, this key is not down. So if fly down is not down and fly up is not down, that key is not down, then in that case you want there to be no velocity. And something's not quite right. It's not liking this. So there's that parenthesis. There's that parenthesis. There's that parenthesis. Looks like I need one more at the end there. Okay. Now that should work already. And let's actually add the keys in. So fly up will be, let's do the typical WS for up and down. W, and now it should work. Stopping right away, so I think this should just be get key, not get key down. Because get key down is just the one frame in which it detects the key being down, not ongoing. There we go. And as soon as I let go, she stops. Okay. So currently, there are no limitations to how high or low she can fly, so she can fly right off the screen. There are a multitude of ways of controlling the range in which she can fly in. Among them, even before you apply the velocity, what you can do is you can say check the y coordinate. So since we're changing the y velocity, that means their y coordinate is changing. So we could check the y coordinate and say if the key is up and she is beneath a certain level, then fine, apply the velocity. Likewise, when you're flying down, if she's not too low, then apply the velocity. Another way is you can just add a collider box above and below her. So 6 one way, 1/2 dozen the other. There are pros and cons to each one. Let's go ahead and do the collider boxes. So for her, let's see. Let's take a look at the camera so we know where to put them. We'll add, and we'll call this top bumper just so we know what it's doing. It will have no sprite because we don't want to see it. And it's going to have a box collider. And it really doesn't have to be the whole length of her, but we will make it a little bit longer though, a little bit wider. So we also don't want her to rotate when she collides with it. So one change for her, we come down here to fixed angle. There we go. Now, because there's going to be terrain beneath her, you can either add the collider boxes to the terrain or just have a level that she can't get below anyway. So let's just do that. And the collider box at the bottom won't interfere with the terrain once we add it, as long as the terrain itself doesn't have a collider box, and really won't be any need for one at that point. Just rename this. And let's give that a test. So let's go ahead and give her her first attack. And with simpler games like this, there's a lot of ways that you can do this and have them be equally effective. So let's take the I-beam attack, or I should say the asset, and let's just line that up. First of all, let's change the scale. It's too tall vertically. Above the eyes. What we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to make that a child. And the reason for that is when she moves around, it will move around. Now, we don't want to see it all the time, so by default, we want it to be set to 0 alpha. Okay. Now let's go ahead and give it its own collider box. And then, just so there's no issues with it colliding with her, we will bring this over like that. Okay, so what we can do to make up the difference is we can actually add another collider box if we really wanted to. So let's make this visible again just to see how well. Okay, so that's really actually way too big. It's using the full height, not the modified height. So let's edit that. I can't see how that looks. Alright, so now another way to do this is you can actually have the I-beams be instantiated each and every time. Then you have to track where it is and make it follow her. So it's doable, but like I said, with a really simple game like this, really no need to overthink it. And we will actually make that a trigger since it's going to be on all the time. And what we want to do is we're going to add a key code to trigger the attack. Yeah, let's go ahead and link them. So I-beams, because what we will do is when the key is pressed, so we're using the new attack. What we'll do is we'll take that I-beam object and apply get component and the sprite renderer, and the color, and it is 1, 1, 1, and then the fourth one is the alpha, so we'll make that 1 because it starts off at 0. And we need to use the space key. I'm going to hit the space bar and it becomes visible. So the next step will be to put a timer in there so it shuts off after like quarter of a second, whatever.